Jesus Christ. Your clothes. Were you assaulted? Damn bandits. May they burn in hell.
Look, lady, this is the only set of clothes I own, okay? Kingdom Come Deliverance is a 2018 medieval combat simulator, stealth game, alchemy trainer, detective game, equestrian experience, romance game, booze 'em up. And on top of all of that, it's the story of a young man's path through loss, discovery, and revenge. It's incredibly hard to encapsulate everything that this game is because there are so many systems to explore, so many ways to accomplish your goals, and so many ways to get sidetracked. When Warhorse Studios ran a Kickstarter for Kingdom Come Deliverance, they had over 35,000 backers pledge over £1 million in support of this game. They described it at the time as having a non-linear story with revolutionary combat based on actual 15th century fighting techniques. They wanted to immerse their players in the Middle Ages, traveling through a range of settings and experiencing a world in strife. The Kickstarter was wildly successful, and it's pretty incredible to look back at their original goals and see how far they've come. I bought this game in 2018, not too long after it came out, and I got stuck after about 30 hours of both the main quest and tons of side quests. There was a bug in the game early on that triggered during a specific cutscene in a quest about halfway through the game, and I just stopped playing. Yeah, I know I shouldn't have given up, but I did. So here I am, 6 years later, and I had an itch to finish this one. Conveniently, Warhorse Studios announced the sequel's release in 2024. Oh crap, that's this year! I started playing this game in February. They announced the sequel in mid-April, and I finally finished the game on May 1st, which is just about 6 years after I first played it. And I'm so glad I did, because this game is special. It can be a bit of a mess, but it is an ambitious, beautifully crafted game that's one of the best RPGs I've played. Before I get too far into this, I'll say that this video will be very spoiler heavy. I'll give you a heads up when we get past the introductory prologue of the game so you can make a final decision on avoiding spoilers, but I think that the best way to talk about this game and all the systems and elements it has is to discuss them organically as they came up through my run of the game. Welcome to the 15th century in the Kingdom of Bohemia. You play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith in what is today the Czech Republic. The game's intro video introduces the Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV. Charles was a great emperor leading the land to prosperity. When he died, his son Wenceslas was set to gain the crown. However, he was not truly fit to rule and tended more toward boozing and cruising, as it were. After not showing up for his own coronation, Wenceslas is targeted by the other nobles, who turn to his brother Sigismund for help. Sigismund, however, very quickly takes things way too far. He kidnaps his brother and leads a campaign of pillaging against his allies. These allies include Sir Radzig Kobyla, this guy shown in the opening cinematic, a noble in charge of the mining town of Skalitz. Radzig's blacksmith, a man named Martin, has a son named Henry, our character, whose mother finds him sleeping late after a night out with his friends. We take control of the first conversation after the cinematic, and we make some choices that lead to specific skill point growth. Whoa, saying you spent time with Bianca increases vitality, huh? Nice. So we finish that conversation, and oh my gosh, this game is struggling on my device. First things first, let's change some settings. Motion blur, definitely turning that off. I'll be honest, it takes me most of the prologue to get these settings the way I want them, and in a way that doesn't lead to intense struggle for my computer. But once it's there, things flow smoothly enough. I apologize if the quality of the recording is a bit subpar in this video. This was the last set of recordings I made on my old hardware, so things should look better both later in the video and in future videos. I meet up with Henry's father, who has some tasks for us. Get some money from Kunesh, a man who owes Martin for some things he made him, buy some charcoal for the smithing work, and get the crossguard for the sword we are making for Sir Radzig.
Alright. Money, charcoal, crossguard. Got it.
And ale. Stop off at the tavern on your way home. I know you'll be going there anyway to see that girl of yours. But make sure the ale's still cool from the cellar when you get back.
When I check the map, I see that I have some markers of where to go, and a whole big world to check out. The markers here make sense. Henry knows where to go, he lives in Skalitz. Later, we'll get more vague areas to search to match what Henry reasonably knows about his quests. Solid map, I'm a fan, especially of the way the game suggests areas to search based on limited info that Henry has. So, off we go. We also have a task to meet up with the man who's been training Henry to use a sword, so let's do that as well. I meet up with him and we get to our training. We get the extreme basics here. Swing your sword in one of 5 directions, and he notes the value of unpredictability. He also teaches Henry to stab, which is a weaker attack that can be targeted both high or low. He also teaches how to do chain attacks. And that's it. Not the best trainer in the world, I have to say. I do want to note that Henry, when following people, walks a little bit faster than they walk, which is a minor annoyance that repeats many times during the game. Next, I try to persuade Kunesh to give Hal the money he owes, which I completely fail to do. You can persuade using your speech skill, using your charisma, or through being threatening with strength and armor that you're wearing. I am lacking in all of those traits, so my failure leads to a fight.
You son of a whore! How dare you speak to me like that? Didn't your thieving father teach you any manners? No? Well, I'll teach you then. Yeah.
Right, unarmed combat. There are several unarmed fights that happen in this game, and I am truly terrible at them. You can do strong swings or quick jabs, you can kick, there's a grapple, I don't understand how it works. Most of the time I find I end up just hitting their guard over and over and not really understanding how to inflict damage. My best guess is that repeated hits reduce their stamina based on them doing that to me, which then leads to actual damage. This time, it doesn't seem to matter too much what I do because Kunesh kicks Henry's butt.
You had it coming, you pup.
While I have the example of Kunesh doing this angry point, I have to say, the physical emoting in this game, truly excellent stuff. We have the strong head shake, the pointing in anger, the fist to the palm, the double pointer fingers to emphasize a point, the raised arms in emphasis, the repeated raised arms in emphasis, the depressed head down, the thinker. These are all so simple, and you see them so often, but some of them just make me chuckle. Well, we'll need another way to get the things that Kunesh owes, so I sneak into his house and realize I need a lockpick. This introduces 2 things. Stealth in general, with crouched movement that makes you harder to see and hear, and private areas. I'll talk more about both things later, but for now, just know that I'm not supposed to be here, so if Kunesh were to see me, I would be in trouble. I listen in on a political argument at the tavern between the Deutsch and some locals, with the Deutsch on Sigismund's side. I decide to go with Henry's boys to cause some trouble, convince his wife to leave, then throw some manure at their house. We get in a fight with Deutsch's son and his goons, and then run away from the police. A good time was had by all. The boys agree to meet up with me at Kunesh's place to get my revenge as well. I got a lockpick from one of Henry's friends, so I'm going to steal Kunesh's hammer and nails. This brings up the lockpick interface, which you might compare to Skyrim's interface in that you have to find the right position and rotate the lock. However, here you have to find the sweet spot and keep it lined up as you rotate, adding a bit more depth. It's still not a horrible challenge though. The one weird thing about lockpicking in this game is that Henry will not even try to pick locks that are too high level for him. It's like he can look at a lock and just know deep in his soul that he lacks the ability to do it. A nice touch is that the world keeps moving when you pick locks, so you can get caught if you time things poorly. There's a nice bit of tension for some of those stealthy situations with that. Now that I have stolen Kunesh's hammer and nails, I realize that this is just not enough revenge for me, so I have my boys help me jump Kunesh. We beat him up, and I move on with my life by taking his axe. I sell off the hammer, axe, and nails, and I'm still short some money. Don't know why exactly, but Henry's a good son. He'd sell his own shoes to help his father, so we'll have to go barefoot for a while. After buying that charcoal, I visit Bianca at the tavern to get the ale for father, and she and Henry flirt a lot. She also gives Henry
your favorite Savior Schnapps.
This is, as the game informs us, essentially a limited count to save manually. I like to call it save juice. It is the only way to be able to save scum anything. If you don't have any, you can only save by sleeping in your bed or saving and quitting. This is a very contentious design choice when the game came out. I remember people being both very upset about it and very happy about it. I think it provides a good challenge. It makes you consider if you really want to risk some choices, if you want to use save juice now that might be better used later on, and so on. At least with the version of the game I'm playing, I had more of these than I ever needed to use in-game. You can also buy more or brew your own, but more on brewing later. In any case, I sprint back home with the ale for father. Nice job not spilling anything, Henry. And we get to work. We see the crossguard that was designed in Sasau. The devs, I think, did a really good job of showing us this world. The crossguard does look impressive, and it has Latin etched into it that neither Henry nor his father can read, because most people in this time were illiterate. Martin also berates Henry for throwing dung at Deutsch's house, telling him he needs to apologize and clean up the mess he made.
I have a trade to run. The German pays well, and having my son in the pillory helps nothing and nobody, least of all the king.
Henry's father is also very wise.
You might win a fight with violence, but you'll never win an argument. Remember, Henry, if you want to convince someone that they're wrong, try using your mouth and not your fists.
As we finish the sword, Teresa, the miller's daughter, arrives to get some nails that her father needs. I grab those, more Savior Schnapps, and give them to her. She and Henry know each other, and she's curious about him and Bianca, him going to a dance later. Very interesting. Oh right, smithing a sword. Sir Radzig arrives to see his sword. He tests it out, and he has Henry try. Well, that was a good attempt, buddy. Radzig is very happy with the sword, and this guy, Sir Istvan, is impressed as well. There are some questions about Martin's past.
How odd to find such an accomplished swordsmith working in a place like this. A man of his talent would have no problem making a fortune in Prague or Vienna.
You're right. It's a very long and peculiar story.
But for now, Sir Istvan must leave. Henry tells his father that he would like to travel the world before he settles down, but this pleasant conversation is cut off by the arrival of a messenger. Oh. Oh no. Oh no! Yeah, that's a big army led by Sigismund himself, with a bald knight leading the charge. Martin has a plan.
Listen to me, Al. Listen carefully. Take the sword, go into the house, and grab anything else important from the trunk. Go to the castle. Hurry!
What about you?
Your mother is in the village. I'll fetch her and we'll follow right behind.
Henry checks the trunk, which we already raided, and then tries to find his father and mother in this chaos. Martin is kind of a badass with his sword, but alas, he is cut down. Henry sees his parents die, and now he must escape. Unfortunately, we can't make it into the castle as they have to raise the drawbridge. They tell Henry to get a horse and ride to Talmberg nearby for aid. So off we go with Sir Radzig watching our escape. I find a horse, but I also find a bunch of these soldiers harassing Teresa, so I'll intervene and die. Okay, the game lets me know that Henry is definitely going to die if we try to tangle with these guys at all. Fair enough. Grab the horse, run it into the guys to help Teresa, and that's good enough. Time to flee. The entire time we're running away, we have these guys on our tail. I have to manage my horse's stamina, but I do make it to a cutscene trigger, fortunately. It's a very good thing that Henry has some plot armor at this point, because I am not a skilled rider in the game, or in life, I have tried, so he should really have gotten taken out here. Anyway, in Talmberg, Henry collapses. I really don't blame him, and he tells them what he knows.
I've come from Skalitz. They burned it to the ground. Slaughtered everyone.
Who? Who burned it to the
A
ground?
huge army. They attacked without warning. And they weren't Czechs or Germans either.
Who then?
I don't know. I've never seen armor like it or heard their language.
He gets treated and fed and meets Lady Stephanie, Sir Divish's wife. She's very nice and lets Henry have a bed in the courtyard. Thanks, lady.
Let him sleep in a lodge in the courtyard.
Certainly, milady. Young Henry here is overwhelmed by your generosity.
Yes, thank you, milady. May God reward you for your kindness.
Eat up now. You're in capable hands, so I'll leave you to it. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, ma'am.
When you've done, you can sleep in the bedchamber of the courtyard lodge. And don't forget to take off those filthy boots before getting into bed.
Joke's on you, Sir Robard. I sold those boots not too long ago, so there. I ate some food, and this is where one aspect of realism appears that I'm not a major fan of. If Henry takes things from trunks or other containers, you get an inventory screen. If he picks stuff up from a table, or picks plants in the wild, or anything that's just out there, you get a short animation of him doing so. This gets a bit old. I can see its value in stealth situations to create more drama, though. Alright, it's time to sleep. And Henry is immediately interrupted by this guy who just wants to know what happened in Skalitz. I use the persuasion system here and tell him what I know. Alright, let's go back to sleep, and there's a cutscene this time, and another nap interruption. However, this time it's Lady Stephanie who visits Henry to comfort him, and what is happening here? Why am I so close to Henry on this dialogue screen? Oh, of course, Henry is sitting in the air in front of the bed. I guess he just wanted to get really close to Lady Stephanie to tell her what happened. Yeah, let's get this out of the way right now. This game is a bit buggy. No, they are not the end of the world at this point. There were some game-breaking bugs early in the game's existence, including the one that locked me out of progressing a mission about halfway through the game. But the devs have been able to patch those out, to my knowledge at least. I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't run into anything that ruined my experience, at least. Anyway, we tell Lady Stephanie what we know. We learn a bit about her backstory of marrying Sir Divish, and now, for real, it's nap time.
Henry, wake up. You don't want to miss this.
God damn it, people, let this man sleep.
Come to the battlements. One of our patrols reported a company heading here from Skalitz.
Oh, yeah, I should probably get up for that, okay. People are a little worried that it might be the army that attacked Skalitz, but it's actually Sir Radzig who escaped Skalitz and is on his way to Rattay. Henry says that he wants to go back to Skalitz to bury his parents, and everyone agrees that this is a really, really stupid idea. Please don't let this kid make any decisions.
Don't even think of going back there, you donkey! Are you tired of living?
Sir!
Quiet!
I get set to watch overnight, and in the morning, Sigismund's army does arrive. The bald guy who led the attack is
Sir Markwart von Aulitz,
and Henry is itching for revenge already. We won't get a chance, though, as Sir Divish negotiates wisely.
Sir Radzig Kobila is not here, and I have no intentions of getting embroiled in affairs from which I have nothing to gain.
Even though I know it's a bad idea, since I'm playing as Henry, I really, really, really want to go back to Skalitz. Lady Stephanie has a helpful idea, even though I wake her up. That's payback for everyone else doing so.
If you wear a proper suit of armor, and if he can't see your face, he won't recognize you and he'll let you go.
Good thinking.
I'll disguise myself to get out, but on my way out I foolishly give myself away in hopes that the guard will be convinced and have a bit of a heart. He is not convinced, and so I have to pay a bribe in the end.
On the other hand, you've dressed up so nicely, and it's a shame to let it go to waste. The old man won't like it, but I'll act stupid and I won't get worse than a bollocking. If you make it worth my while, of course.
Now that I have a horse, I can hold shift to auto move, which is nice, but it does require paying attention at crossroads. I will get more expertise with horses later, and indeed they are helpful for both travel and carrying extra inventory items. Thanks to this horse, I make quick time back to the Skalitz area. I abandon the horse for now and meet up with a bandit. It's time for the first real fight of the game.
For the slaughter.
I'll let you go, but the weapon stays here.
Very well.
I can only thank my past experience playing this game for this victory. You really aren't given much in terms of combat knowledge at this point in the game, which actually I think makes a lot of sense considering that Henry sure doesn't know how to fight. Wait a minute. Henry just killed a man for the first time. How's he doing? Well, he's doing well enough to loot the bandit, get overloaded, and have to drop all the apples that I picked up in his house. Skalitz is in a pretty bad state, and Henry has some severe survivor's guilt.
Why? Not you. It wasn't supposed to be you, Bianca.
Well, not that much guilt, apparently. I find his parents' bodies, and now we need to find a shovel. We find one with this guy who's fending off a defensive dog, and his name is
Zbyszek.
He's here to loot some bodies after surviving the attack, and even though I just did the same to both Bianca and my parents, God help this bastard if I get my hands on him.
I've interrupted you robbing the dead. Is that why you're so ill-tempered? You bastard. Haven't you got a shred of honor?
He abandons the shovel and runs, and I take it and get to work digging. Fortunately, this good dog keeps me company. It's time to bury Henry's parents, but...
Do you need some help? Is that him?
Of course. Zbyszek, bastard that he is, has led some bandits my way. I, though, can absolutely take this guy on. I absolutely cannot take this guy on, and he takes the sword meant for Sir Radzig. But before he can put Henry out of his misery...
The games are over.
George! Disperse this rebel!
We are saved by the Talmberg soldiers, and now a long cutscene to mark the passage of time while Teresa takes me by cart to a new location. After a dark and hectic fever dream, we learn that Teresa has been taking care of us in Rattay, and even buried Henry's parents for him. She's a good egg, though she is quite sad to have lost so much. Her uncle has ensured we were cared for quite a while. How long exactly?
For over a fortnight.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks! My God.
Now that Henry is back in action, we'll need to report to Sir Radzig again, but we also owe the miller a great debt for allowing Henry to stay and for paying for our medical bills. And ultimately, Henry wants revenge. He's lost not only his family, but also the final sword that his father forged. Before I continue, this seems like a good spot to pause and remind you that the rest of this video will be very spoiler heavy. I will talk about a bunch of gameplay mechanics and presentation notes as I go, but I highly recommend you go experience this game for yourself. This game is quite honestly brilliant and fun and frustrating and buggy and beautiful and exciting. It's one of the best RPGs I've ever played. So I hope you'll go enjoy it, but I also hope you'll come back sometime to watch the rest of this video and to share your thoughts. With all that spoiler warning out of the way, let's talk with Miller Peszek. I owe him, and he wants me to make it up with some light thievery.
Listen, it's about this ring my mate, Wojciech, the Kohelnitz miller, had his eye on. Trouble is, they buried the ring by the gibbet, along with the villain they hung while he was wearing it.
Henry's not a big fan of this, but oh well, he does pay his debts. So that I don't have to go into every single detail of every single side quest, I'll summarize a few of them as I go. For example, this one leads us to finding out that the ring is not on the body when we dig it up, and that leads us to thieving it from the executioner, which leads to Peszek telling Henry to deliver it to somebody else, who tosses it aside and explains that we're now good to take on more stealth and theft-based quests from the various millers around the area of the game. I'll touch on some other side quests as they come up, but for the sake of as much brevity as I can possibly have in what is probably going to be a million-hour video, I won't talk about every single thing, mainly the ones that have a clear bearing on the main storyline. Back with the main quest, I head to the castle and find Sir Radzig in conversation with Lord Hanush, Hans Capon, and several others. The refugees from Skalitz are in Rattay, which is causing a fair bit of tension in the city, and the civil war rages on. When Hal arrives, the priest who is here acts like a total jerk.
Still, it's a great shame your parents are buried in unconsecrated ground. That means purgatory for them.
Fortunately, the various lords put him in his place.
If you're so concerned, Father, maybe you should save the innocent souls of these fine Christians yourself. Go to Skalitz and consecrate their graves.
Henry asks for a job. Capon is displeased with Henry's boldness.
The gall of him! Fled from the enemy, disobeyed your orders, duped Sir Divish, lost your sword, put Sir Robard in danger with his actions, and now he wants a promotion.
Sir Capon's right.
But Radzig agrees so that Henry, a Skalitz boy, can help with the refugee situation. So we're off to do some training and start our duties as a guard. On my way to that training session, I stop in to repair my gear. It's very expensive to repair the sword I have, so why not put Henry's skills as a blacksmith to work by honing the blade myself? This is its own repair mechanic, requiring mouse movement to angle and press the blade correctly, and pressing spacebar to spin the wheel. This skill can level up and get perks like essentially every other thing you do in this game. More on those perks as they might come up. For now, I can repair my sword enough to at least reduce the price to complete the repair. Now it's time to train with Captain Bernard. This takes the basics we learned in Skalitz and complicates combat further. We learn about guarding, particularly using timing to parry attacks effectively, and using the same timing to dodge out of the way. I like this approach of teaching you the game system, honestly. This system is pretty hard to get used to at first, and many people who have left negative reviews over the years have complained that combat is too hard. But others have also complained that it's too easy for a reason that I will get into much later in this video. From my perspective at this point in the run, I find the combat reasonably tough, but not awful, except in the case when Henry is facing 2 or more enemies. The system is great for one-on-one combat, but if Henry has to fight multiple people, no thanks. Again, the goal here is realism. It is actually hard to fight against 2 people in real life, so that makes sense. Our training is interrupted by Sir Hans Capon, who's a bit of a dick, but my training continues. I appreciate the practical nature of engaging with the system to ensure you get more comfortable as Henry improves his own skills. I might like the combat, but I still absolutely hate following people. They walk slower than Henry jogs, and faster than he walks if you press caps lock. And the number of times you'll need to follow people in this game is quite high, so I think it's an unfortunate design choice that I rarely see games get right somehow. The next bit of training is in archery, and I do save scum beforehand because I remember this bit from my first playthrough. Archery is very hard. This game is meant to be realistic. Have you, personally, ever shot a bow? I did, back in high school PE, probably
redacted
years ago. It's not easy, and Henry sure doesn't have skills right now. I listened to Bernard's advice, I hit the target, I think, several times, and...
well, that was awful.
Look, Captain Bernard, I thought I was doing okay. After we insult each other a bit, Hans Capon challenges Henry. So now, it's time for...
an archery contest?
The best advice I can give is that you kind of have to pull the arrow back, judge where you're aiming by Henry's knuckles, and loose as soon as you have finished the draw. The longer you hold the shot, the less steady your aim becomes. In this contest, I managed to completely stomp Hans Capon 20 points to 6. Very nice. Hans isn't satisfied though, he wants to square up with swords, real ones. This fight takes a long time. I benefit greatly from having played this game before, so I have a slightly better sense of how to handle the combat. In the end, I defeat Hans, and he gives Henry his bow, which, given its required stats, Henry is not yet skilled enough to use. Now, on to the actual quest here, though I do get a side quest to learn how to read in Ushitz. Henry is the son of a blacksmith, and like most people in this era of history, he is illiterate. The main story, though, is to meet up with the bailiff to get some work. He sends me to Nightingale, one of the watchmen who I'll be working with, who also suggests that I should be thanking Teresa for saving my life.
All honor to the girl. She has bigger balls than most men. Tell me, how did you pay her back?
Well, I thanked her.
That's not much, is it? You should go and see her when you get a chance.
Oh, a new quest about courtship. Very exciting. Anyway, the quest is to follow Nightingale, resolve a dispute between a refugee and a merchant, take a tour around town, tell off another guard for drinking on duty, and then drink on duty while playing dice with Nightingale. Dice is its own mechanic, and you can make some money via gambling and even resolve some potential quest lines by using it. There are special dice that you can pick up eventually that are weighted certain ways. The rules are pretty simple. You roll the dice, you select which ones to hold that might give you points, and either roll again with a limited set of dice, or pass the cup along. If you don't roll any scoring dice, you bust and your opponent gets to roll. If you score all of your dice, you get to roll all of them again for even more points. Right, time passes, and now we need to close up the taverns for the evening. I ring a bell to signal the hour, and then I head to the final open tavern. Well, 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 who do we have here but Hans Capon? He won't be bossed around by Henry, and this starts a brawl.
And besides, he's only in charge till I grow up.
Which clearly hasn't happened yet.
Enough! You can't talk to me like that. I'm a nobleman.
Come now, sirs. You're not going to fight here, are you?
We most definitely are. This yokel needs to be taught his place.
This is broken up by Sir Hanush, who tells both of us off and forces Hal to hunt with Hans the next day. Indeed, the next morning I meet up with Hans, and since I don't have a horse yet...
Well, you'll just have to trot along behind me like a good dog.
On the way, Hans does apologize for his behavior, but he also notes the proper order of things. He's not so bad, though he is arrogant and certainly appreciates his noble position over others. The game auto-travels us to the hunting camp, and after a bit of conversation, it's time to take a nap. It's worth noting that each minute in-game is 5 seconds of real time, so waiting for an hour means you wait actively for 5 minutes. Much better to sleep or use the wait command. The hunt begins and Hans challenges Henry.
We'll meet back here at noon. Whoever has the most hares wins.
And I have to tell you, hunting is very hard. Aiming the bow is hard enough, but the arrows drop very quickly. And rabbits are very small targets. Look at the absolute state of my skill level here. Yeah, this is going to take a while. I should pause to note the quality of the music in this game. Every tune seems to fit very well with its area, and wandering these woods with this tune was pretty sublime. I do like all the music, actually. Here's some jaunty fist-fighting music, for example. It's all well done, and it fits the world. I'm a big fan. Curiously, Hans sprints past this rabbit, so I guess I can claim that one. Thanks, Hans. After about 15 minutes of my life spent on this, we call it quits. Hans complains that I followed him the whole time. Sir, no, you are wrong. You ran past me. But in any case, we're off to hunt a boar. Hans shoots it, fails to kill it, and rides after it. I better chase him and... oh, another rabbit. Having lost track of Hans, I find him in a camp with 2 enemy humans. I decide to fight them to help him out, rather than sneaking in. This was perhaps not the best choice, as I get pretty injured, but I do take them out, and I can save Hans.
You lunatic! They almost had me roasting on a spit!
I'd say it looked more like they were about to take your maidenhood.
Now look here, dung grubber. Is that any way to speak to a nobleman?
A nobleman with crushed balls, friend.
Now you're playing with fire, boy. I could have you in the pillory for that. And then with my own 2 hands, I'd... crush your balls!
I take him back to Rattay where he is treated, and I am thanked for my work and promoted. Very nice. However, there is a problem.
A stable boy came from Neuhof. He says brigands raided the stud farm this morning. There's many dead or maimed.
I go off with them because the description of the bandit leader sounds awfully familiar. Now that we're off to investigate Neuhof, I get my own horse, Pebbles, who is perfect and needs no replacement. You can get other horses, but why? Look at him. The nice thing about a horse is that you can unload stuff onto the horse to lighten your load. Riding is its own skill that you can improve by, well, riding your horse, and you can unlock more perks that allow for more carry capacity, greater speed, and better damage when fighting on a horse, though horses can spook and throw you off if you are attacked at lower levels. A bit of a heads up here, if you don't like violence toward animals, this next cutscene and area involve a bit of that. We do arrive at the Neuhof stables to find that the stud farm has been raided and all of the horses have been killed. It's really awful. In many quests, including this one, Henry will play detective. You get an area to search. There is no detective sense or anything like that. You have to use persuasion and your eyes to determine what happened at many points. I can talk to many of the people here, but this man called Ginger is the one who gets my attention the most. He seems sketchy, but he might just be scared after everything that happened. Sometimes you'll get more precise waypoints, like when I learned that the bandits fled north. Heading that way, I interrupt a bandit saying farewell to a dying comrade. This fight is terrible, but it's nothing that some bandages can't fix. I'll note I could have just let this guy run off, that would have been wiser, but I made my choice and the game allowed it. I see the other bandit die, and I take the hoof pick that seems to have ended his life. Back at the stud farm, I learn that it belongs, surprise surprise, to Ginger. He's run off though. I can find him by investigating the surrounding area and asking some charcoal burners that he's friends with. They help me find him, and when I talk to him, he tells me what he knows.
Where are your bandit mates?
They're not my mates. They nearly killed me. I recognized one of them, so I thought they'd come back and...
Recognize? Who was it? Talk!
I don't know his name, only that he's from Ushitz, and he has a limp.
Let's head back to Neuhof for now to report to Sir Radzig, who encourages Henry to keep up the investigation.
So drop everything and get on his trail. Find out what he knows and then report back to me.
Time is definitely of the essence here, but let's take some time to chat up Teresa. Alright, well since it's too late, I'll do some other things first. First I'll eat some food, and because it is too much, Henry is over full. This reduces his stamina until his metabolism catches up. There's a great perk that I pick up later called Balanced Diet that activates after several days of being neither overfull nor hungry, and it boosts Henry's vitality and agility. However, I am terrible at having Henry eat from pots and causing him to get overfull, so I rarely trigger this perk. I do a quest for Miller Peshek to steal some documents, and now is a good chance to talk more about both these smaller activities and stealth. First up, stealth essentially takes how visible you are and how noisy you are and compares it against an NPC or enemy's ability to notice you. If you wear a ton of very heavy armor and move very quickly, it hopefully won't surprise you that people will take notice of your presence. Lighter armor and crouched movement are key to stealth. So I steal these documents, I turn it in for some easy money. This is also done in a private area. I mentioned this when we talked about stealing from Kunesh. If people notice you in private areas, they will get a little suspicious and they'll get on your case about leaving. And if you don't, the guards will suddenly know your exact location and come to deal with you. Restricted areas are even more strongly guarded, and if you're caught there, you're immediately in trouble. Regarding this type of quest, activities are here, I think, to challenge your skills and get you into spaces in the game you might not otherwise go. They also help to build your skills, and me avoiding them for most of this run probably made things more challenging for me in the end. Now that it's a better time of day, I can talk to Teresa and we can go for a stroll along the river. People following still sucks, but for a chance for Henry to win her heart, I'll do what it takes. We have a fun little race against her, and then we sit and chat a bit. I mess up the persuasion checks a little, but it all seems fine after Henry says this.
Ah, Henry, what am I going to do with you? Wandering the land, turning innocent girls' heads.
The only one here whose head is all messed up is me. How do you always manage to look so good?
Just look at the lady killer. Where did you learn to talk that way?
I don't recall which church service it was exactly.
You scoundrel. But you certainly know how to make a girl feel special.
Right, it's time to head to Ushitz by way of Talmberg. You can fast travel through territory you don't know yet, but it will remain unrevealed. Also, I don't think there's a way to stop fast travel once you start it. You can get interrupted during fast travel, but you can't purposefully stop. That's fair enough. I suppose the devs wanted you to do the work of traveling to new areas yourself. In Talmberg, I learned that Lady Stephanie is asking about me, and she gives me a quest to help her out with some tasks to get ready for a wedding. Sure, I think I can handle that. Conveniently, I need to get a horse for her from Ujits, which is where I need to find Limpy Lubosh. So let's head to Lubosh's house there first. I'm sure he'll be able to answer some questions about... perhaps I should not have gone on that date with Teresa. Okay, the truth is that this is a set event. Lubosh is always dead in this quest. I can ask around.
Jesus Christ. Your clothes.
Look, lady, I already told you this is the only set of clothes I have. I do eventually get a tip that Lubosh spent some time talking to the priest in town. Before I go speak with the priest, I do have Henry complain that he can't read what the message on the wall near Lubosh's body reads. Conveniently, there is a quest to learn how to read right here in Ujits, so let's do it. Hopefully I don't have anything on a timer. Learning to read costs 50 groschen and takes a few minutes.
There's a book here on the table. Try to read it.
The game boldly assumes that the players have actual reading comprehension while reading this story about the goose and the golden egg.
I've read the book.
Wonderful. So tell me, what have you learned?
That being greedy doesn't pay.
Excellent. You're one of my most talented pupils. You've uncovered the meaning hidden in the letters.
So far, so good. Now it's time to read some Latin. The test here, I think, is to pick which option is the most obviously correct or perhaps the least wrong.
Nullus est liber tam malus, ut non alique parte prosit.
Good heavens! Don't tell me you haven't had lessons before. Excellent. Well, there's nothing more I can teach you. Congratulations.
This teacher seemingly did nothing, and now Henry can read. Back at Lubosh's place, I read the wall, and I get basically the same message as before.
An inscription in blood. It's a pity I don't know how to read. Looks like they wanted to give someone a warning, but who? And a bandit who knows how to write isn't something you see every day. Judas. Looks like this is meant to be a warning, but for who? And why? Maybe the gang had a falling out. But a bandit who knows how to write isn't something you see every day.
Henry might not have been able to read, but he's a sharp lad anyway. I meet up with Father Godwin, who admits he did meet with Lubosh, but because of
the sanctity of the confessional,
he can't tell us anything. However, he wants Henry to meet up with him for a drink later, so I'll follow him to do that. During this conversation, I want to earn the father's trust, and who the hell is this lady? She's just here. I guess we'll just keep talking, sure. I'll keep persuading this priest, and we'll see how it goes.
I've told you all about me. Now it's your turn, Father. You don't look much like our parish priest at home. Well, we've had an agreeable chat, but now let's get down to business. So, about this confessional seal. Do you really want more innocent people to die?
Hal, please calm down. We might not get any answers right away, but Father Godwin does promise to give us some help in some way later. So, for now...
What do you suppose? We have a drink, of course.
That sounds like a good plan.
I knew you wouldn't let me down.
This leads to one of my favorite sets of scenes in the entire game. We have a great party. Henry is having a great time with the father and his lady and the tavern girl.
Enough of this!
Okay, I will get back to the story in a second, but that I think was some great cutscene design. Really great music crescendo into a sudden cut to the bailiff, that's great. We get kicked out of the bar, we beat up the bailiff and his men, and Henry's vision starts to get more blurry during this fight. We climb to the top of the church, very wobbly view, and we ring the bell. And then...
And now, my dears, comes the climax of the evening.
Yeah, I can't show this part, but I can say this about Henry.
Apparently, he had a very good time.
After all that fun, We wake up and, oh boy, the hangover. However, Father Godwin has forgotten something very important.
Mass! Oh shit, I have to say mass. I gotta say mass. You have to help me.
Henry rightly asks why he has to help, but the priest says this is the way that we can learn about Limpy Lubosh, so sure, let's go for it. At the church, nobody is impressed with the priest, but the tavern girl is sure happy to see Hal, and he sure doesn't seem to remember her. Yikes. Henry helps out by giving a sermon that is styled after what Father Godwin told him about a new priest in Prague, and in doing so, we get some of my favorite physical expressions in the game.
One should not believe in the church, because the church is not God. God is above all things, and the church is but a means to salvation, which the prelates do not care to hear. It is the corruption of God's pastors here on earth that has brought misfortune on our heads. Plague, cumens, hunger, and chaos. The accursed wealth that the church is drowning in is poisoning almost the whole of Christendom.
The people leave happy, and the priest finally reveals what he knows about Lubosh.
Now, Lubosh came to me shortly after it happened. His conscience was gnawing at him. And I must say, in the end, he turned out to be a better man than he looked. He said they'd been hired through some crony of theirs. And at first, they were just to steal some horses. But then it all turned sour and people started getting killed. And neither he nor his cronies wanted anything to do with that. So they fell out from the gang and fled.
Fell out? Yeah, there was a body found in the woods by Neuhoff.
So Lubosh killed a guy at Neuhoff. He felt guilty about it, and then he was murdered by the bandits who his gang had paired up with. It looks like his buddy Riki might be the next target. And now, after all that rollicking good time, especially with that barmaid, what is Henry's first thought?
I wonder what Teresa's doing now. I could stop by and see her again. I enjoyed it last time.
And now that we know where to find Riki, let's not do that and get that horse for Lady Stephanie instead. It turns out the horse is wild, so we have to learn how to ride it safely. Once I convince the groom of my good intentions, he tells me,
You have to sing him his favorite song.
Sure, I can sing to a horse, why not? Fortunately, we can fast travel with this horse to Taumburg, so I do that, and then I head off to meet Teresa, who wants to talk later on again.
I can't now. Come back in the evening, will you?
So let's snag the wine that Lady Stephanie needs for the wedding. There's a catch here in that the merchant has just given up the last of that wine as a prize for...
An archery contest?
Yes, I know it's the same joke twice. I'm sorry, there's only so many jokes I can pull here, okay? Anyway, let's swig some save juice just in case, and it turns out that that save scum's location was not really needed because I win the archery contest first try. Easy game, right? I need to wait a bit more to chat up Teresa, so I unlock a new skill, pickpocketing. Miller Peshek teaches Henry how to do this, and it would have been very helpful for some quests earlier. In essence, you sneak up on someone, you hold a button to build up your pickpocket timer, and then you find items in their inventory that you might want to take. I trained some skills with him too, and I realized you can't do this multiple times, so you do have to level skills up by using them as well as paying to learn. I do still have to wait a little bit for our next date with Teresa, so I test out Henry's new literacy skills. Books in this game come as both standard info books and more valuable skill books. Not all skill books are usable right away, some require certain skill level thresholds before they can be read. This does make you wait through actually reading the book, but reading is pretty powerful and allows Henry to advance his skills in new ways. And now it is time for our date, so let's head to the tavern. Remember how I mentioned this game is a little bit buggy still? There is a weird audio glitch here, where it seems like Hal's voice is only really audible if I'm looking down.
No need to take it the wrong way.
I'm not taking it any way at all.
It's alright. I'm only joking. I don't go picking up women in taverns. I prefer a different sort.
I don't know, just was a weird thing. This date is cute, we chat and dance, and then this jerk shows up. He gets told off by Teresa, but Hal also steps up. I kick his butt, and this is a genuinely sweet moment. The devs did a good job here.
You should go in before Peshek starts fretting. Oh.
Oh, indeed. Well, now that that's done, let's get back to the important kingdom-critical tasks. It's time to make a plan. First, let's find Riki. He's supposedly in Ledechko. Then I'll go to Sasau to get the final piece of wedding stuff to help Lady Stephanie out. To learn more about Riki, I find his father. He is asleep, so it's time for some robbery. Stealth at night is a bit easier as, well, people are asleep, so they're less likely to notice your nefarious deeds. Riki's dad does eventually wake up, and I talk to him and get directed to the innkeeper next. The innkeeper reports that Riki could be in any of several locations, and it's up to me to figure out what's the most logical, what fits best with the evidence of Riki as a man. Or just blindly guess and head to the cave northeast of Ledechko. I was lucky in that Riki is indeed here, but he's dying. Once again, Henry's dating habits lead to trouble. He does let us know that the bandit leader was indeed Runt from Skalitz, and not much more info. Timmy, though, knows where the bandit camp is, and he's in Merhoyet. I put Riki out of his misery, and then I head off to Sasau to continue avoiding my duties. In Sasau, the guy creating the crown for Lady Stephanie notes that they're just waiting for a final stone, a piece of moldavite, but the merchant has been missing for a while. So let's track down his very broken wagon and some blood. That's not good. Yep, it's time for a fight. This was, hands down, one of my favorite fights because this guy's archer buddy takes him out for me. Gotta love friendly fire. These guys did indeed have the stone, so it's time to report back and wait for the crown to finish. While I wait for that, it is a good time to note there are a lot of side quests in this game, like kind of an absurd amount. There are also activities that are smaller than side quests. For example, I get a quest to pickpocket a guy. I get a lengthy set of tasks from this weirdo to get several items.
First, I need a tooth of Saint Procopius. Then I'll need a branch from a topping out hung on a church. And finally, a talisman for luck from a passionate player.
This blacksmith asked me to get some sword shards to reforge a famous sword. Johanka from Skalitz asked me to help the wounded at the monastery. Man, there is so much. I'm not going to go into all of these during the video. I would never finish at that rate. Now that I've picked up the crown for Lady Stephanie, let's head to Merhoyed, where I chat with Timmy's sister. She is reluctant to help me, but I used threatening language to convince her to let me help her. I also unlock a perk for speech that lets me see everyone's stats from the first moment of the conversation, which should at least let me know where I should target my persuasion attempts. I follow her behind the mill to get some info, but we are discovered. These very friendly gentlemen want to know what I know.
I'm looking for someone too. Maybe we could help each other.
I lie.
I hear he's hiding in Ratai.
They run off, and now I only have to deal with one goon. That's easy. Take him down, then I meet up with Timmy. This lad is clearly very bright and capable, and he gives me a bit more info about the bandits' main camp. And now, I'm finally getting somewhere. He claims he was drunk when he went there, but he does give extremely precise directions.
It was straight north from Talmberg. When you go uphill from the castle, there's a path there round some barns, I think. It leads to the woodcutter's camp.
He also gives one of the most helpful bits of info I've ever seen.
You come across this abandoned house. Can't miss it. Looks like a house, only abandoned.
Sir Radzig is nearby, so I tell him what we know about the bandits so far.
We really need to find out more. Could you go back there and try to discover anything that could help us in the assault? The more we know, the better. And if you could carry out some sabotage while you're in there, it would be invaluable. But don't take any unnecessary risks. I don't want to lose you.
It's time to get some more info, so Henry is sent to investigate. The bandits' hideout is past Talmberg, so let's go check in with Lady Stephanie and turn in that quest for her.
And now I'd like to reward you.
That's not necessary, my lady. You taking the time to see me is reward enough.
Lady Stephanie is so thankful that she gives Henry an extremely fancy shirt.
This shirt was my father's. He was built very much like you. Broad shoulders, strong chest. It should fit you just right.
And then, lamenting about her life, Henry attempts to comfort her.
You and Sir Divish had no children?
No. No, alas, we were not blessed. Twice I was with child, but they did not live. And now I fear there's no hope for me.
My lady.
Whoa, Henry, dude, you can't do that. She's a high-born lady of quality.
Forgive me, my lady. I shouldn't have.
I don't mind.
Ah, well, okay. A funny thing now is that Lady Stephanie, near as I can tell, never directly interacts with Henry again. With that out of the way, it's time to follow the path to the bandits. The game does help you a lot here, giving you reminders of Timmy's highly precise directions, and on arrival at the camp, I see several guards at the gate, and so I plan to work my way around to a different entrance. My best laid plans, though, are sidetracked by this Cuman warrior who I managed to defeat. I need to sneak into this camp, but this guy's armor is definitely better than my current gear, and I wonder if it counts as a disguise. After equipping it, I notice a cool detail about armor. Wearing full helmets limits your view, but only in combat when you draw your sword. This armor does indeed allow me to roam the camp mostly unbothered. The Cuman soldiers will eventually try to talk to Henry, and he can be outed as a fake. In my wandering, I see a cutscene of Runt taking out one of his own guys for causing problems in the camp.
There's even dogs, sir. Don't listen to what they have to...
For the last time, Sigismund's mercenaries are guests in our camp, and we treat guests as our own.
For some reason, I find some poison just lying around that might help me to cause some chaos here. And I do notice this guy following me, so I better be quick about this. So, here's what happens. I poison some food, I burn some arrows, and I ride like the wind to escape. I do a bit more poking around in the evening as well, and once I'm satisfied, it's time to head back to Sir Radzig.
I need you to go to Sir Divish in Talmberg and tell him to send Captain Robard and his men to our aid. There's not enough of us here in the camp.
Time is of the essence, again, and I have to get to Talmberg to tell them to get ready to ride to battle. However, love will not be denied, so let's visit Teresa. I need to get prepared for battle after all. I can repair my gear in Ratai, so what's a little side trip to see my lady? Teresa, once again, wants to wait a bit for a date, so I wait, and I fail a quest? It's one of the ones to help the people in the monastery. Oh my god, Henry, what have you done? Yes, some quests are indeed timed. Do you remember when I found Riki dying in his cave? If I had arrived faster, he would have been alive, and I could have helped him fend off the bandits. Alas, poor Riki, and alas, poor injured people at the monastery. Well, time for a date. This one is simpler and more playful. Teresa wants to play basically blindfolded hide and seek, so Henry obliges, and his stealth skills are on full display here. A storm hits, so I help her save the laundry from the storm, I comfort her from the thunder, and then...
Shouldn't we spread the linen out?
Henry, hush now.
Henry, my goodness, 3 ladies in just a few days? But here's the thing, Teresa is definitely the one, and we can talk to her about marriage and life the next morning.
But seriously, Henry, what kind of husband would you make? You can't sit still in one place for an hour at a time.
Well, I've got a lot of duties, but I'm very fond of you, you know. And maybe one day...
I know, you silly sod. We can't get married yet. But we can still see each other and be fond of each other.
Right, so we should probably go deal with those bandits. Let's travel to speak with Sir Divish in Talmberg, and now we're off to take care of things. I tell them everything I know about the camp, and Radzig comes up with a plan.
From what you say, the route over the bridge is the best option. If we're fast, we'll have the advantage. With the help of God, we'll win this day.
I join the soldiers in the assault, and though I have one very stupid death while dealing with archers, we take them out, and Henry gets his chance to face off against Runt. It's time for revenge. Henry, come on, I said it's time for revenge. Yeah, I died here several times. I have not trained Henry in combat nearly as much as I should have up to this point. I should probably make a point of visiting Captain Bernard to train more, possibly get some new skills. But for now, I do finally get the upper hand. I love that cutscene Henry is vastly more skilled than my own gameplay Henry. We finish Runt off, and we chat briefly with Sirs Radzig and Robard, Henry Voms, and we assess our victory here.
We'll meet later in the upper castle in Rattay, and then decide what to do next. But come what may, you did a good job today.
Something else, though, is afoot.
I will make you pay for this. It's time for the next part of our plan. Give the word.
Well, mysterious villain, we shall see. For now, we auto-travel back to Rattay, and I wake up with a new task. After that victory, it is time to assess how things stand in the region. During our assault, Merhoyed was also attacked, but they held off the bandits and managed to even capture one. We also got a lot of gold from the attack on the bandit camp, but we learn that it is actually a bunch of fake money. Sir Hanush is a little bit annoyed.
Kurva! Fuck!
And Henry is tasked with investigating Merhoyed. Once I arrive, it's clear that something is quite wrong, as Henry finds Matthias, another Skalitz survivor, who informs us that there is a plague running rampant through town.
Folk are saying it's the plague. Whatever it is, it's bad. It started the day after the raid. First the horses got sick, then other animals, and now people are falling ill too.
I have to ask both the sick folks and their families about their symptoms to progress. I should note that this quest, Pestilence, is infamous in the game's community. It is convoluted, and it was bugged in several ways on release. One of those ways was that entering a door to interrogate the husband of a sick woman crashed the game. All of this has, to my knowledge, been patched, but I was very worried going into this part of the game. I opened the door, very nervously.
What?
Whoa, calm down. He is enraged, and he won't be reasoned with, so I beat him up. Now, finally, I am past the point where I stopped 6 years ago. After checking on many people in town, I learned that they've experienced a very sudden onset of fever and shakes, vomiting, and diarrhea. The sickness has also killed off the animals in town. Once I know all of that, it's off to the Sasau Monastery again to get some help. At the monastery, I talked to Brother Nicodemus. No, not that Nicodemus, this guy, and he informs us that we should check a book to compare the symptoms I know about with common ailments. The game, once again, trusts your reading comprehension because it sure won't give you any clues beyond what you learned in Merhoyed and what's in the book. Now, if you read the book, and you deduce that the sickness is caused by poisoning from water, which can affect both people and animals, then congratulations, you've gotten the correct answer. Things aren't done here, though, as Henry decides that he will brew the concoction that will heal the people of Merhoyed. And so I have my first foray in this run with alchemy. Alchemy is a fancy name for mix things in a pot and hope that you cook it right. I need some ingredients, 2 thistle, 1 valerian, and a piece of charcoal. I had, quite luckily, gotten these things along the way and left them to stew in my horse's saddlebags. This setup looks overly complicated, and it kind of is. Once you know a recipe, you can find it in the herbarium to your right, and as long as you have the ingredients, you can add them to the alchemy bench for preparation. All potions start with a base. This potion will start with water, for example, but you can use wine, oil, or spirits for other potions. You add the base to the pot, then you prepare the ingredients. Sometimes you need to grind the ingredients, but for this cure, we do not. I add 2 handfuls of thistles and then boil the liquid for 2 turns of a sand glass. Then I add the valerian and boil that for 1 turn of the sand glass. Let it cool fully and then add the charcoal. Then collect it in a phial. And that's it. We'll be seeing a similar alchemy bench many more times in a later quest line, but that's all you need to do here. So let's head back to Merhoyed. I spread the cure around town, including treating the bandit they captured, and now we wait and see how things go. Indeed, Henry's vaguely boiled plants do the trick, and everyone is on the mend. I talked to the bandit, and I learned that Runt got his money from
the chief,
though the bandit only knows that he is not Czech, and talks as if he's noble, kind of like...
Oh, la-di-da, like a lord.
I get a few names. Morkok, a bandit, and Menart, a trader. We'll track down Menart soon, but first, I want to take this bandit back to Ratai for justice. Old Straw, the guy who zipped across his room to confront me, wants to kill him instead, and I take him out in a fistfight. I report back to Radzig on Henry's success, and we get a cutscene between these two in which Radzig notes that while things are hard...
I'm no theologian. But long ago I came to the conclusion that the only thing that makes sense is that it's all a trial. Life is one long series of problems to solve. The more you solve, the better a man you become.
Radzig is wise and appreciates the work Henry has put in. He also watches Henry walk away with a wistful gaze and says,
"Good luck, son."
Son? Like, son? What does it mean? It's probably nothing. Let's move on. We're tracking down the merchant Menart, and in finding him, I find a very bad murder scene, it turns out. I follow a blood trail to a charcoal burner camp where I need to find a man named Borja. While he's hesitant to talk, he does direct me to the only survivor of the attack on the merchant caravan. He gives up some information, primarily that a knight ambushed them. Conveniently, said knight appears and takes the good from the caravan. Henry gives chase, and once we're out of the saddle, we fight. Wow, all right then. Okay, let's try again. You might remember when I was fighting Runt, I said this: I should probably make a point of visiting Captain Bernard to train more, possibly get some new skills. Did I do that? Of course not. So Henry is basically a sitting duck here without further training. When I attack this guy, he'll sometimes counter with this unblockable attack. It also doesn't help that this guy's armor is extremely nice. Because I'm using a sword, I'm not doing that much blunt damage, which is really what you need to get through plate armor like this. I'd do much better with an axe or a mace. So what can I do? Well, if you can't beat them fair and square, find a new way, like a bow and random crap in the environment to get in their way.
I yield. Enough.
Yes, one shot to the face is indeed all it takes, and it proves that Henry is a man who is so virtuous and worthy of respect on the battlefield. This knight surrenders, and in talking to him, I learn that we're actually on the same side.
It is true our meeting has not begun well, but if it is the truth that you are sent by Kobila, then we can assist each other.
This is Ulrich, who will be of help in this quest. Menart is dead, and Ulrich will help us with our investigation into the fake money because it aligns with his goals. He has a confession about the forgeries. He will give that to Henry, and Henry will give it to Tobias Fafar, the chief engineer from Skalitz, who can likely help figure out more about these counterfeit coins.
Very well. I'll go and see Master Fafar.
Godspeed. I will wait in Sassau at the Wagoner's Inn.
Indeed, Tobias confirms that Sassau is the likely origin of the fakes, so we need to investigate further. Before I do that, though, it is time for a training montage with Captain Bernard.
I think I've mastered the basics of combat. Could you teach me something a bit more advanced?
I see. And what weapon are you such a master at?
I'm pretty good with a sword.
You're a bit cocky, ain't you? All right then, let's see what you can do. If you're as good as you think you are, I'll teach you some master strikes.
I'm ready.
He teaches me a new skill, the Master Strike, essentially a parry riposte when you parry an attack with perfect timing. This is what Ulrich was using against me. The window for perfect timing broadens as your skill improves. This skill is what most enemies will do to Henry from now on. I've learned many attack combos up to this point, but I won't really be using them because every enemy seems to interrupt the combos either with a normal block or a Master Strike. I think the game does in some ways turn into a contest of who can wait the longest for their opponent to strike first. This makes combat much more frustrating toward the end of the game, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. I like the idea of these Master Strikes, but the enemy AI relies on it far too much for anything else to be effective. Right, back to the training montage. I engage in some more training to boost my skills, and then I visit Teresa for some free clothing repairs. I sell some stuff off to Miller Peshek, and I repair the rest of my gear in town. This was ultimately a worthwhile trip because I increased several skills and I got a perk that increases Henry's strength when he first draws blood in battle. Off to Sasau to meet up with Ulrich, who is taking a nice nap at 11 a.m. I get some new tasks to investigate the goings-on around the town. The Overseer is holding back Quicksilver from a fresco painter. I threaten the Overseer's hand and learn some new info about Sir Jezek, who is forcing the hand to sell the Quicksilver to him and a man named Rapona. I also get more information from talking to some of the blacksmiths around town. See, the counterfeits are made of copper with a Quicksilver coating. And so another blacksmith outs Zack as somebody who is guilty of working with copper, so I confront Zack, who refuses to tell me anything, but his son spills the beans.
Stop prattling, for God's sake, and start telling me the truth. What's the story with the copper at your forge?
You're right. We do make copper sheets here at night.
So why all the secrecy about it?
Father forbade me to talk about it. I don't know why, I didn't ask.
As part of getting more information from Zack, I set up a duel where I'll be a champion for Zack's son's armor versus another blacksmith, Ota's champion in Ota's armor. Ota is pissed off at this challenge.
You'll get such a battering even Brother Nicodemus from the monastery won't know which side of you is up. Now clear off!
But we go ahead with it anyway. Who could Master Ota's champion be?
Please, introduce yourself, Sir Knight.
Master Otter will fight for Master Otter. I don't need some young pup to take my place.
Ah yes, the old man fights for himself, but I take him down and I secure the information I need about the counterfeiters.
One evening I got a visit from this scruffy beggar calling himself Rapota. He had a yellow cape on and kept whistling to himself. There was a knight with him too, but he didn't give his name. They told me what I had to do, how much I'd get for it, and I had to keep my mouth shut.
It's time to report back to Fafar, who has traveled to Sasau, and I have one final task to talk to Master Jerome about an engraving press. Something is up with Florian, his apprentice, so we should investigate that. It seems he thinks that someone is following him. On the way, I ask about Florian at the bathhouse, where I learn about Esther, an abducted bathhouse girl. Florian is connected, and talking to him gives me the option to use my knowledge about Esther to get more information.
You make the punch dies for the counterfeiters. How do you hand them over? Do you know where their workshop is?
I can't say anything. I'll deny everything and you've got nothing on me. No evidence, just accusations.
It's got something to do with that girl, hasn't it?
How do you know?
That doesn't matter.
No, I suppose not. I didn't want to get involved, I swear. Those bastards kidnapped Esther. If I don't cooperate, they'll kill her.
To find Rapota, all I have to do is watch Florian leave for work. This guy starts to follow him immediately, so he's made himself pretty obvious.
I know that you spy on Florian. I know you were involved in the kidnapping of the bathmaid, and I know why you're doing it all.
It seems there's no point making excuses.
None. Now tell me where their workshop is.
Of course. That will be the best solution.
So?
Let's leave it for another time.
When I confront him, he sprints off, but I catch him and interrogate him. I learn that Zezek, a former vassal with no land anymore, is set up in a mine shaft near Skalitz. I haul this fool off to jail, and it's time for an assault. Ulrich agrees to accompany me on this raid, and we fast travel to the spot. We kill a bunch of goons, thanks in part to Ulrich's help. Henry heads in to confront the counterfeiters, and wait a minute, where's Ulrich during this cutscene? Well, I have some bad news. I looked it up after I finished the game, and it's possible for Ulrich to die in this game, both when Henry first fights him and when we raid this counterfeiter HQ. So he must have died during that fight, and I just did not notice. Rest in peace, old man. This Zezek guy is honestly very easy to convince. I select one option. Henry does his thing, and Zezek says, yeah, alright, I'll go with you.
Oh, very well then. May as well climb straight into the maw of the beast.
I cart Zezek off to Ratai, where he wants to speak with Henry personally as part of his interrogation. He gives us some info about the whole operation, though it's not very much. He knows about a man named Eric, who likely works for someone higher up. Before I head back to Sasau, I find Captain Bernard for some more training, this time with axes. Axes are nice in that they deal a balance of slashing and blunt damage, so I'll be better able to deal with heavily armored foes. I gain a defense level and unlock a new perk, one that gives greater intimidation with my armor. I do a few errands here and there, and then fast travel towards Sasau. Oh, what's this? An event? I haven't talked much about these yet. During fast travel, Henry has a chance to encounter random events. You can bypass them with a percentage chance, or you can face them head on. These can be a friendly merchant, or a random chest with stuff, or an enemy ambush. This one is an enemy ambush, and it's a 3 versus 1 fight. This is basically an instant death for Henry. Hal is great when fighting 1-on-1, 2-on-1 is possible, 3-on-1 seems damn near impossible. It's time to reload. As is true with many things in life, fast travel can be harsh and random. This time I make it without any trouble. I start my investigation by talking to a tanner about some ruffians behind his house, and I promise to deal with them. In doing so, I learn that they are running a fighting ring just for fun, and the tanner participated and lost, thus his annoyance with the crew. Well, this is a good chance to make some money and potentially get some info, so...
Let's do it.
Let's go.
For whatever reason, these guys just let Henry wear his heavy armor during these fights, so it's pretty easy to take them down. Once I defeat the final guy, Punch, he will tell... Oh, wait, he's still knocked out. Hang on. There we go. When I ask him about anyone looking to hire someone as able-bodied as Henry, he tells me,
"There are people here looking for really tough men, and I'd say you fit the bill. So when you walk through town this evening, if there's a light in the church, go in and wait a while. If they like the looks of you, they might give you some work."
Thanks. I'll think about it.
Alright, let's head off to the church then. Indeed, I meet a bandit recruiter who has a new task for me to earn Henry's way into the gang.
Which is what? Steal something?
No, not theft. If you want to join us, you have to kill Pius.
Alright, so the goal here is to kill a guy named Pius, but he's holed up in the Sasau monastery. Once I take him out, I'll need to take a special die he has as proof. To get in, we have to find a man named Carl to try to take his place as a new monastery member. Carl seems interested in talking more, but...
Manfred there, my guardian angel and caretaker, has all the coin, and he never takes so much as a single step away from me. If you help me get rid of him...
He's been listening to us the entire time.
So what? Listen,
My
friend,
pleasure.
let's raise a glass. Manfred here's a sleepy old goat. We can talk once he dozes off. Please, get rid of him for me, any way you can.
So let's drink with Manfred and play some dice. This dice game is pretty goofy, mainly because of how upset Manfred is at busting.
Oh no, God's holy hat!
He loses, and he's so drunk that he has to go to sleep. In talking to Carl, we learn that he has been forced to join the monastery due to getting his lord's daughter knocked up.
Shit. Shit is putting it mildly.
We can do a bit of theft here to help out. We need to snag the writ that allows entry to the monastery, and I can get some money for Carl to help him get free. I don't have to do that second part, but Henry's a nice guy, so we'll help out. With Manfred asleep, this is very easy. I pickpocket the goods, I wish Carl good luck, and then it's time to report back to Sir Radzig. As a side note, around this time in my playthrough is when they announced Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and my desire to finish this game and get this video out skyrocketed. Radzig distinctly does not like the idea of Henry killing someone in the monastery, and so he proposes an alternative.
Don't kill him. Bring him to the bailiff in Rattay. He'll interrogate the man and give him a fair trial.
That's maybe easier said than done, sir, but Henry will do his best. So I reach the monastery, and it's time to join up. Except that I have to give up all of my worldly goods to do so.
Sell them or give them to the poor and needy or donate them to the monastery. You may not enter this place burdened by worldly goods.
I dump everything in the chest that they direct me toward, and I assume I'll be able to get it back later. I'm really hopeful the devs wouldn't just steal my stuff. They wouldn't do that, would they?
Strange feeling being without all of that. I didn't realise how much I'd grown used to it.
So here's our cast of initiates, several men who all seem vaguely suspicious, but at least this guy, at the very end, is helpful in directing Henry around. Poor Henry is not prepared for this ceremony in any way.
Suscipe me, Domine, secundum.
But he gets through with some help from Antonius, the fellow helpful novice. He gives me a book full of my regular duties. Yes, Henry needs to be able to read to engage with this quest correctly, and he also takes me on a tour of the monastery. Alright, now that we're here, let's talk about this quest. Henry is acting as a new novice in the monastery. As such, after the first day, he will have very specific duties to attend to each day at very precise times. Meanwhile, he'll have to investigate the other novices to determine who is pious so that I can either kill or capture him. If you mess up your daily duties, get caught with items you shouldn't have, or do other nefarious things, chances are high you'll get kicked out of the monastery and have to find a different method.
Stealing is a sin. You should know that as a Christian, and certainly as a monk. Even if I wanted to forgive you, I couldn't. Thou shalt not steal.
Very well, brother. I accept my punishment.
You failed to complete your trial period as a novice.
Or just reload. Let's meet the novices. There's Antonius, the friendly novice who takes Henry on a tour. There's Lucas, a quiet and potentially suspicious fellow. There's Yodok, who is highly focused on the rules of the monastery. And there's Siskin, who says,
"Welcome to Purgatory."
He's the easiest to learn about. I ask him some questions and learn that he's the son of a knight and was sent here due to his laziness. I doubt that he's my target based on his willingness to tell me about his background, but he could be lying. I do get a few side quests here. First, I should investigate the cellar in the evening to see who's causing a mess down here. I can repair a book by finding pages scattered around the monastery. I can investigate Siskin's cache of stuff, which I do, and find a dagger, possibly useful if I do decide to kill Pius. And I can influence the election of a new abbot by siding with one of the two leading candidates, either Nevlis or John. Brother Nevlis wants me to get a forbidden book of medical information to help heal the current abbot. Meanwhile, Brother John wants dirt on his opponent. So, with the basics laid out, let's first check out the cellar in the evening. It turns out it's the circators down here. They're essentially the rule keepers who would be the ones to toss me out if I make a mistake. I have a drink with them and get a quest to grab more wine for them in the future, so I'll need to talk to Yodok about that. In the morning, I join the monks for their morning mass. Yeah, this quest involves a lot of waiting in locations. After prayers, I decide to try to take a key from the prior, since it was mentioned that I may need it for other tasks. I'm able to pickpocket him successfully. He is so devoted to his prayers that he does not notice me at all. Very nice. This key allows me to open the front door to the monastery, which will come in handy later. Time for breakfast with the boys, and this is another wait for a bit task. After that is some potion brewing work for Brother Nevlis.
I'm here to work.
Excellent. I've been waiting for you. There's the alchemist's laboratory. You'll find ingredients in the chests next to it. Today's task, 2 cockerel potions.
This potion is pretty easy. It's much easier than the cure for Merhoya that I had to make a while back. So I brew it, I turn it into Brother Nevlis's delight.
Spectacular, Gregor.
And then we wait. Again. Great quest, huh? It's time for some transcribing, and this is, I think, the worst part of this quest other than the waiting. For each book page you are shown, you must pick the correct option of 3 choices to match the text on the page to what Henry will transcribe. You do this 3 times in a row. I think I did pretty well this time. Let's turn this into Brother Librarian. Surely he'll be impressed by...
No.
Well, look, I tried, man, okay? I'm gonna fast forward a bit to a moment when I make a mistake. I try to pickpocket another monk in hopes of getting a key I need, and I am caught. This is basically game over for this quest now. I'm a stubborn fool though, so let's save scum and start the day all over. This time I start by pickpocketing Brother Librarian. He has the key to the forbidden books that I need to get help for the sick abbot. I'm successful, and I repeat my successful theft of the prior's key. Eat breakfast again, then potions, then wait. I get some perks this time, which I forgot to do last time, and this allows me to not get tired by just waiting around. That's quite beneficial to this quest. Transcribing again, and I think that I should choose the least bad looking option, maybe, and it seems like one is always very clearly wrong. This time, Brother Librarian says,
Good work. I can see you have talent.
And now I can stand in place for a few hours. We pray for 2 more hours, have dinner, and then it's time for the evening free time. Really, I'm just waiting for everyone to go to sleep so I can snag the forbidden book. I did have a moment of cunning planning where I thought, why not just brew some save juice to give myself some save scum ability here. However, the chest full of ingredients has everything I need except for belladonna. That was very clever on the dev's part. I check in with Yodak about getting the wine for the circators, which both clues me in that I'll need to talk to him later that night to go get it, and it creates a save point, which is good in case I totally whiff on something. Curfew is at 9, so I plan to wake up at 10, head to the library, and steal the forbidden book. I am successful. Now, all that's left is to...
What are you doing here?
Well, Henry gets caught by Siskin, but since Siskin wants a forbidden book for himself anyway, it doesn't really matter to him. What does matter to Siskin, apparently, is if I dare to enter the room just past the library, as he goes off to report my behavior immediately. What a jerk. It's time to reload and repeat some of that, though I got a new save right after getting the forbidden book. Since I promised to get the wine for the circators, I meet up with Yodak and learn that I'll need to sneak out of the monastery and over to the nearby cellar of the monastery custodian. That's easy enough. I avoid being sighted, grab the wine, and bring it to the circators. They are thankful, and their good relationship with me may help if they catch me doing something naughty. Why did I write it like that? What's wrong with me? Oh god, this is page 24 of this script. I need to finish this quest. Since I need everyone else to be awake for the next bit, I go to sleep. I go to prayer and wait, go to breakfast and wait, then talk to Brother Nevlis about the forbidden book. He is thankful and he gives me a tip about finding out more about the other novices by getting into the prior's study to find notes about their background.
About that book, don't even think about breaking in to get it.
Okay, Nevlis, I promise I'll be good. Alchemy again, which I'm getting better at, then wait, then transcription. I'm going to be 100% honest with you here. This transcription stuff...
It's crap!
I'm not doing this part legit. I used a guide. May the Lord forgive me. In any case, I'm successful here. I wait, pray, wait, then try to find the prior's study. Once again, full honesty, this was another thing I needed to look up. There is a way into the study through the library, but it's locked so powerfully that Henry dares not even try lockpick it. So how do I get in? I wandered around for a while before looking it up. You have to leave the monastery, go up these stairs, follow this path, and this somehow leads to the study. Sure. I find the info that I'm looking for, and while the notes are inconclusive, there is a very heavy hint that Brother Antonius, the first guy I met here, is hiding something, and he's the only one with some uncertainty about his background. So now that I know this, I may be able to accuse him directly. Before that, though, we have to pray and wait. As soon as prayer is done, though, I can talk to him in front of God and all the other monks, and directly accuse him of being pious.
I know you're pious. The man I've been looking for.
So you're finally sure? Tell me, Gregor, or Carl, or whatever your true name is. What do you want to do now?
I admit that I do not plan to kill him, though, because Henry is a good boy. He fesses up about being pious, says he didn't kill anyone even though he was involved with the Neuhoff attack, and he realized he needed to change after his involvement in that mess. Antonius will agree to get out of the monastery with me if I can help him with some errands. We'll need to deceive everyone to make them think that he was killed. So, we need to get some blood, which I can add to the kitchen's order list when no one is watching. Meanwhile, I continue with my regular duties of brewing potions, transcribing text, praying, and eating. There are other things I could do around here, but I frankly don't care at this point. This quest is a cool idea, but in execution, it is a lot of waiting and knowing exactly what you need to do, but being unable to do it because some monk or other is always watching you. So Henry will sleep, pray, eat, make potions, transcribe again, and finally grab the blood. Once I give Antonius the blood and the keys to the monastery, we'll have to put our plan into action that evening. One more day of eating, potions, transcribing, which I botch.
Can you read at all? I've never seen so many mistakes.
And then my fateful meeting with Antonius. We drop the blood to make it appear that a murder took place, then finally leave the monastery. In a final conversation with Antonius, I can choose to let him go or bring him back to Rattay for justice. After spending so much time getting this guy out of here, I'm happy to let him go on his way. Antonius passes on his lucky die to Henry as required of my quest, and now we're off to the meeting spot with the bandits. after I steal back all my stuff, of course. I'm intensely glad that the monks just let my stuff sit here for days on end. Before I finish the story with some final major events, I want to take a moment and explain how main quests work, with this monastery quest as a prime example. Henry has to finish the main quest to complete the story. He does not have to do a very good job of finishing the main quests. What I mean by that is, I didn't have to do all of that. I didn't have to eat, pray, transcribe for in-game days on end. I could have just snuck in and killed a novice, hopefully the right one, but any of them seems to do the trick. It requires lockpicking a hard lock, but you can do it. You can also blab early to Antonius, and he'll try to poison Henry, but he feels guilty and admits to who he is. So yeah, this quest is really slow and tedious, but it's also a really great example of how dynamic this game's main quests are. You can entirely skip this section of the game by just murdering the right guy right away. But I like the lore of Henry really going out of his way to pretend to be a monk for several days, all to find a guy who has a single lucky die. Okay, I promise you, we're getting close to the end of this, hang tight. I light a fire in a swamp as directed by the bandits, and they buy my story of killing Pius. I have the die, so I must have done it. Now we can
learn everything you need to know at Vranik
by going to a fort on the hill outside of Sasau. First, I report in to Sir Hanush and Sir Radzig about what I know. Henry says he will go to the bandit fortress to investigate. They trust him after all, and what could go wrong? Time to repair my gear, visit Teresa for a romantic scene which Henry keeps his helmet on for, and a quick nap. Outside of Sasau, I find the fortress and... oh, a point of no return, huh? Very interesting. Well, I'm okay with abandoning some quest if it happens, so let's go forth. The bandit camp is pretty big, which is bad news. The bandits are also very confident.
This kind of force will go through any opposition like a knife through butter.
Yikes, this is not good. I'll learn more by talking to Eric, the leader around here who Zezek mentioned several quests ago. Eric wants me to test my combat skills with their trainer, who turns out to be the guy who gave me my first combat tutorial way back in Skalitz. He didn't do a very good job back then, and now Henry has surpassed his trainer and takes him down. Back at Eric's place, there is a horse outside that wasn't there before. That's a bit odd. I head inside and... oh my god, it's... who is this guy? No, really, who is this? I feel like I've seen him before, but I don't know. I'm being 100% serious right now. When I saw this cutscene, I had no idea who this guy was. So Henry's reaction... you bastard. That didn't really make sense to me outside of making me realize I should recognize this guy. So take a look at this face. Did you figure it out? It's this guy, Istvan Toth, from the very beginning of the game, the guy who so admired the sword that Henry's father forged. I think this was supposed to be a big, oh, so he's been the villain all along moment, but it just did not work for me. I've been playing this game for upwards of 20 hours at this point, so a very brief scene from the beginning of the game when so many other characters have come in, and the only other instance of seeing this guy was from behind right after we defeated Runt. I don't know, I don't think it works. In any case, Henry is captured, he is tortured and taunted. Istvan Toth tells Henry a surprising thing.
Your father, your real father, is alive. You even know him. It's your liege lord, Radzig Kobyla.
Which could be true, but it might be fake, who knows? I'm pretty sure we know Radzig did say, "Good luck, son," in that cutscene a while back. Istvan also reveals that, yes, he works for Sigismund, and yes, he has far more troops than Radzig or anyone in the area could gather, so yeah, this is pretty bad. Henry is left to rot in this temporary jail, but someone comes to his aid in the night. Oh my god, it's Spijek from Skalitz. What a blast from the past. He seems to at least want to make amends.
Why would you, of all people, want to get me out of here?
I've got my reasons. If not for the good of my soul, then for the good of my purse. It'll cost you a few groschen, and that's all you need to worry about. You shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Spijek informs me that I can escape by jumping out of the camp into their refuse pile, and that while I can try to get my equipment back, he does not recommend it.
Eric has your things. It would be suicide to try and get to them. Forget them.
This immediately makes me want to get my equipment back. I'm glad there is a save point here because I die very quickly. I spent about 30 minutes looking for a lockpick before I finally found one in this very well hidden chest, so I can get into Eric's house, get a key on his desk, and finally grab my gear. I make a daring, hardly elegant escape, and I meet up with Zbyszek. Henry, for the sake of drama, takes off all his armor for this cutscene in which we walk back to Rattay, where he promptly re-equips it to talk with Sirs Radzig and Hanush. It's a bit of a rough reunion in that Henry is able to confirm the fact that Radzig is his father, but not many more details right now. We make a plan to attack the camp the next night, and Henry praises Zbyszek for saving him. Thanks to a full heal, I'm able to head right to Talmberg to get Sir Divish in motion. Of course, I realize right after I talked to him that I should have moved some things around in my inventory and repaired my armor before this big assault. Oh well, to war! Henry gets a nice upgrade to his armor in this cutscene, but once again immediately switches out of it once we arrive at our location. We assault the base and things go quite smoothly. I take out many goons and our advance is hardly stopped. It's a great victory. But something's wrong because Istvan isn't here. Henry finds a letter which says that things are going according to plan and that Istvan will take a castle. Talmberg, of course. Istvan, sneaky bastard, lies about having wounded men with him and takes advantage of Lady Stephanie's kindness.
My men are gravely wounded. Without treatment, I'm afraid they won't live to see morning.
He takes the castle and he takes Stephanie prisoner. We immediately charge in to try to take back the castle. And despite taking out several goons in a brawl, the enemies stop our advance before we can get into the castle proper. Istvan has both Stephanie and Radzig as hostages now. As a final insult, Divish takes an arrow to the shoulder and we retreat to set up a camp. So we need a new plan. Rather than besiege the castle, we'll first try to scale the walls at night and open the portcullis in secret. Henry volunteers, of course, and will need some dark clothing to succeed. Back to Rattay for some repairs and some shopping. I mentioned a bit before, but stealth relies on how conspicuous and visible you are and how noisy you are. Quiet, dark clothing is best for sneaky situations, though I have certainly gotten away with wearing heavy armor for most of the game's stealth segments. Right, let's sneak in. Henry is joined by Hans, who I haven't seen much of in this run, but I do know there are quests and a whole DLC focused on him. Once we scale the walls, Henry is voluntold to take out some guards.
Fuck! The alarm's been set.
I said, Henry is voluntold to take out some...
Fuck! The alarm's been set.
Henry, dude, come on. I do finally succeed by using stealth knockouts rather than stealth kills, as they rely on different stats. I'll note it would have been fine for me to fail the quest by being discovered. It changes nothing, because it turns out that we find the prisoners, but not Stephanie and Radzig. And then Hans gets shot in the butt, and everything goes to shit, and Henry has to carry Hans out. Alas, we have failed the quest, but Hans has some good lines here.
If you don't get a move on, they'll stab you in the back right under my nose. Quick! They're right behind us. That is, behind you. They're in front of me, and I can't do anything. Run, for Christ's sake, and don't shake me so hard.
Well, it is time for a siege. First, somehow, even this late in the game, more quests. We can pick up many activities here to make the siege better. More importantly, though, we need to help Master Fafar with the construction of a trebuchet. We'll need to find Conrad Kieser in Sasau. This Conrad fellow is a famous engineer who used to be on Sigismund's side, but they seem to have had a falling out. Now, there are many other tasks that I can accomplish here. I don't want to get into every nitty-gritty detail, so here are some things that I do while I find Conrad Kieser. I hunt for some meat for the army. I gather a ton of mint, valerian, and wormwood for an alchemist to get us some potions to keep the soldiers awake. I get Father Godwin to join the siege to pray over the dead soldiers, though this requires another side quest. I get some pitch sent to the siege by the charcoal burners who helped me find Ginger. I get some beer shipped to the siege for the soldiers. And finally, I asked Brother Nicodemus to join the siege to help treat the wounded, again after finishing a side quest. And then, at long last, I meet Conrad Kieser, the famous engineer who got on Sigismund's bad side after disagreeing with his methods. He can't leave the Sasau monastery due to some work he's doing.
What is it you're working on, sir?
Belly Fortis,
A great book of war machines and weapons. My opus magnum, my legacy.
And to support the monastery. I persuade Karel, the foreman here, to let him go by first stealing the commission that Karel has about Kieser's work, making a forgery with a scribe, returning the commission to Karel's chest, and then handing off a fake leave of absence for Conrad to be able to leave. However, Conrad is not ready to leave because it seems that someone is following him and he's worried that this man will try to kill him.
Leave? I can't even set foot outside the door. Not now.
The man, Pachar, knows Conrad from back in the day, but he says he's here on business. I don't trust him though, so I watch the door overnight, and I do find him trying to break in. However, he says this.
It's all a terrible mistake. I've a long-standing arrangement with the custodian here, Sir Sebastian von Berg. I supply him with salt and spices, and I've come to realise how he's been cheating me repeatedly. The dispute's been running for a while, and still has legs. So I wanted my money back, that's all. I've no quarrel with Conrad.
So I let him go this time. I tell Conrad the results of this investigation and he agrees to head to Talmberg.
A well-chosen site. You want to strike the gate, do you?
True. We don't want to do more damage than necessary.
I quite understand. Sir Toth is holed up there, is he?
Just so, Master Conrad. I hear you have some accounts to settle with him.
Ah, not entirely. I've done with him. Sigismund trusted him more than me in his campaign against the Ottomans, and we all know how that ended up.
How did it end up?
Badly, my lord. The flower of French knighthood was slain there. Sigismund fled for his life, and I did too, I must confess.
Be assured we shall not make the same mistake here. We do not intend to starve them into submission, but to break down the gate.
I am at your service, my lords. We will build the trebuchet quickly. It will be ready in a matter of days.
After that exciting conversation, oh my god, what is happening? Oh my god, it's Pachar. He showed up to kill Conrad, and he was slain by the guards. Conrad, no! We'll never recover from this loss. Oh, no, he's fine. Okay then. Now that that's all done, I've completed all the side quests for the siege, so let's wait for the trebuchet to be built. They test it. We'll work on the aim there, but first, a scout reports that they are coming.
They're coming! There's no time!
Divish is pissed off about this, and we'll have to fight off these attackers. Henry is asked to join the attack with the Skalitz men.
We need someone there who knows them and has their respect.
So, do you really think I'm someone the men could look up to?
I appreciate Henry's humbleness, but I'm sure he'll do fine. We'll conceal ourselves and attack the rear line of the enemy. We defend the ford, we help Sir Hanush in battle, and it all goes well. Even Sir Divish gets in on the fight. Even better, we capture Eric, the jerk from the bandit camp, and now we're off to defend the trebuchet. We successfully repel that attack, and now, with Eric at our disposal, we may have space to negotiate. We start interrogating Eric, and Henry gets called in to question him. Most of my stats outdo his, so this should be okay. We get plenty of info. Mainly, that Istvan has fewer than 70 people now, and that Eric thinks he won't do an exchange, but he seems to think that Istvan will come to save him.
I don't need to save myself. Istvan will save me, and he'll kill every last one of you!
Well, it turns out that Eric was basically right. Toth is clearly pissed that we have Eric.
Be warned. If anything happens to Eric, I'll let every manjack here have his way with this bitch, and I'll dice Kobila into goulash meat.
But he's not willing to make a trade. So now it's time to start the assault. We also learned that
Margrave Jobst
is riding this way. Margrave Jobst is the cousin to both King Wenceslas and Sigismund, and while he previously supported Sigismund, it seems he's changed sides. However, just in case, we should try to wrap this up before he arrives. Henry, after his hard work, gets the honor of the first shot of the trebuchet. And now we wait for a few days. I did do some small side quests here, mainly spotting some of Istvan's men in the woods around Talmberg, but I don't worry too much about side quests at this point. Now it is time to attack and save the day. We'll have 2 fronts with different stages to the assault and plenty of danger from archers. The Skalit's men will follow me and will attack the walls. Henry dons his cutscene armor again, and we attack. Really nice shot on the drawbridge here. However, my portion of the fight is not so nice. Yeah, Henry is still pretty bad at fighting more than one guy at once, and the other guys who come with me die pretty quickly. So it's time for the good old reliable strategy of letting others do your dirty work and shooting guys with arrows. It is surprisingly effective, but it does highlight that the combat here is pretty rough at this late stage. Maybe I'm just bad at the game, I'll be honest, I don't know, but I couldn't find a better way to deal with this. After our victory, we negotiate with Istvan. Hanush promises that he can get out of the fiefdom at least. He will take Radzig to Skalitz as insurance. Henry and Hans both dislike this, but Hanush focuses on their honor. Stephanie is released, and she and Divish have a nice reunion. Istvan taunts Henry on his way out.
Oh, I almost forgot. Your sword. I expect you'll want it back after all the trouble you went to. Actually, you know what? I think I'll keep it. As a memento.
This isn't over. I'll find you!
I look forward to it. Yeah!
Hans and Henry ride after them, and we find that Istvan was at least good to his word about releasing Radzig at Skalitz. With all that action behind us, Radzig and Henry can finally have a heart-to-heart. We learn that Radzig had a fling with Henry's mother.
You know how it is. We were young. It happened. And I couldn't marry a commoner.
Martin, the man who raised Henry, previously fought in a war in Poland and thus has an aversion to war that he tried to pass on to Henry. Henry, though, is still consumed by a desire for revenge.
Not just to get the sword, but that bastard Istvan too. And then I'll find that German whoreson who torched Skalitz, and I'll slay him with it. I'll never forget his face. Or his name. Markwart von Aulitz.
Radzig counsels him to enjoy life instead.
But don't forget there are other things in this world that are worth living for.
Like what?
Look around you. Blue skies overhead, green grass underfoot, beautiful girls. Good wine, a few good friends, and a fine steed under your backside.
The open steppe. 3 thorns. Falcons at your wrist. And the wind in your hair. Wrong!
As we ride back toward Talmberg, we see Margrave of Jobst's party on their way through the fief. And then, the credits roll. We finally did it. The game is over. Overall, solid game. Kind of an unfinished story, though. Wait, what's happening? Oh, we're not done here, huh? Yes, dear viewer, there is an epilogue started by this dream cutscene with Martin.
You're doing well, son.
Did you really think that was the end of the game? So many unanswered questions, so many unfinished side quests. Though this cutscene is a bit confusing as the wrong subtitles are showing at the bottom. Anyway, Henry wakes up and joins a discussion at the upper castle. Hans is here, having failed to capture Istvan, but so it goes. And now we join a very lengthy cutscene that I will do my best to simplify. Jobst says this kingdom needs a king, and he wants Wenceslas to be king now. This is a little weird because he sided with Sigismund before.
But times have changed.
Wenceslas apparently wanted Sigismund to take over so that Wenceslas could just relax in the throne. But he realized that if he did this, he would just be a puppet, and he didn't want that. So now, Jobst says that he realized his error because Sigismund is losing it and causing way more strife. Wenceslas might suck as a ruler, but he's the only reasonable option now. We need to figure out what the League of Lords thinks about this whole situation. To do so, Hans says he'll make a visit to Berghoff at his castle to see where things stand. Hans wants Henry to go along, and Radzig agrees with this. We take a letter which is meant to be vague enough to keep things open. And with all of that said, I get a congratulations screen that notes I'm at the end of the main story and I can end the game at any time by joining Hans for the next part of Henry's journey. So, let's do one last thing before we head off with Hans. Visit Teresa, of course. I let her in on a secret.
I'm not quite sure how to tell you, so I'll just spit it out. So Radzig Kobyla is my father.
And King Wenceslas is my cousin. You really had me going.
Teresa, please, I'm being serious here. She asks Henry,
Would you still care for me, a common millmaid, if you were a nobleman?
and of course, Henry will never forget about her.
I'll always be fond of you. Nothing will change that.
I'll remember that. I hope you won't regret those words.
No fear of that.
And that's it. It's time to go onward to the sequel.
Let's get to it then. I finally have the feeling we're doing something worthwhile. We're helping to save the king.
Instead of saving his drunken majesty, I'd rather find that whoreson who murdered my parents, get the sword back from him, and skewer him with it.
Cheer up, Henry. I have a feeling you'll get your chance one day, and it won't be long in coming. Forward, men! Audentes fortuna juvat!
Speaking to me now, he's right. I won't have to wait very long at all. But back when this was released, you had no idea that you had 6 years of waiting coming your way. And that's it. We've made it to the end of the game. What a ride. Man, I remember liking this game when I first tried it, but now I love it after reaching the end. The game can be kind of a mess. It has some bugs that I didn't find game-breaking, but I know that there might still be some weird things out there. Some of the missions have a weird structure that can get a little bit frustrating. The combat is both really, really good and kind of frustrating. However, the range of mechanics and options and ways to approach a goal is impressive, and they all work really well together. It's just really, really impressive. The story is, of course, incomplete by the end. We get to see Henry grow up a lot. We see him become hell-bent on vengeance, but also experience the world, fall in love, become a thief and a warrior. He's a great character, as are most in this game. I've said it already, but I'm just so impressed by everything I experienced here. And the thing is, am I really done with this game? Like, actually done? Because there are side quests that I didn't do. There's a hardcore mode with stat debuffs and no autosaves, and that removes the HUD and removes fast travel. There are a ton of DLC packs and missions to complete. There are more potions to brew, more doors and chests to unlock, more bandits to take out. There's so much in this game, and it makes me immensely excited to play the sequel. Thank you so much for watching this probably excessively long video. I had so much fun playing this game and making this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Let me know in the comments how you felt about this game, and of course, if I missed anything critical in either my explanation or that would have made the game significantly different for me. Thanks again, and have a great day.